Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Right, welcome back, Giants fans, to this new series, and please welcome my guest for this episode. You know him from the Revival or from playing his myriad of characters on YouTube and other places. Our friend, El Jefe, Jeff Pilgrim. How you doing, Jeff? You all right?
Good, Greg. I'm doing great, man. I appreciate that intro. And Eli does the same thing during the intro of our New York Revival shows. He's like, blue jersey, white jersey, El Jefe. Like, he doesn't even know who he's talking to anymore. Neither do I. I just talk to myself, apparently. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
No, absolutely. So, as we were kind of talking previously, this is a brand new series we're doing with fans, content creators, and more. It's pretty quick, 15 to 20 minutes. 5 questions for you, 4 or 5 quick fire round of predictions. I might add another question in just because you're here and stuff has happened today, even though this will be going out probably on a Sunday and we're recording this on a Tuesday. Some bits have happened today, so it'll be interesting to sort of get your opinion on that. But first of all, just for our listeners who maybe don't know the Revival, and they bloody well should, I'm going to guess that you've been a Giants fan from birth.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So we don't need to cover that. That's really easy.
I had no
Unlike
choice. Yeah, no choice in the matter whatsoever. I was in Phil Simms jerseys and Lawrence Taylor jerseys from birth, so there was no choice in the matter whatsoever.
Okay, so we don't really need to touch on that too much, but let's talk about the Revival. How did that all start up and get going?
So I met Eli and Spiro. I met Spiro first, and we were writing articles on the Giants for another website, and then we started during COVID. We started doing video streams and stuff like that. Just got along with them really well, and then Eli came on that show as a guest, and that's when like I just started to see the potential, and the room was getting crowded. We wanted to be in control. We wanted to do our own thing and take it in a slightly different direction. So over time, we just kind of talked, and then one at a time branched off, and then finally formed New York Revival, where Giants are definitely home base. Like that's how we met. That's the bulk of our following is definitely Giants fans. But we love to have fun on the show, cover more than just the Giants, but the other New York teams, but even whatever is going on. If there's a cool story in the NBA or the NFL, we'll take it on and have fun with it. We have special guests. I think we've had good luck with that so far. For Giants fans, we've had Tiki Barber in the past. We had a great interview with him. Justin Pugh earlier in the summer, we had him on. So we get to talk to people really close. The beat writers we're good friends with. So we have good connections with the Giants. But then I think our golden goose was probably Kay Adams. Like, it's going to be hard to top that as a guest. And we all acted totally normal on that show. We definitely weren't blushing or stuttering or anything, which is really impressive.
And nobody got stitched up at all, did they?
Nope, not too bad. They threw me. Do you remember they threw me under the bus really bad during that show? And so if anybody hasn't seen it, apparently in 2020, I tweeted out something that said, I'm a happily married man, but Kay Adams makes me want to kiss the television, and I don't care who knows it. And one of my bastard friends remembered and found that tweet, screenshot it, and then while we're live with Kay Adams, they put that up on the screen and didn't tell me they were going to do it. So I respect it because I would have done the same thing, but it was also insanely embarrassing. But she handled it well, and then she gave my wife a shout out at the end of the show, so it all worked out.
So no doghouse.
No doghouse. She understands how I feel about Kay Adams, so it's not a secret. And she's like, she walks in the room back when Good Morning Football was on, and if she couldn't get my attention, she would know why. I was staring at the screen, and even though it's a football show, I was looking at this TV a little bit differently, I guess. And she was like, "Oh, it's that girl again." Okay, like my wife just doesn't care. She's just not bothered. But But if she were a worrisome kind of girl, she'd probably be worried about how I was looking at the TV.
I suppose when you film videos in your back garden playing multiple characters, you've got to have someone who supports you.
Supports, yes, like, but she also says like, you're crazy, like you're out of your mind. And I usually record it when she's not home, right? Because I can't do anything when people are home. I got 2 little kids too, so it would never work out if I was trying to get that done while she was home. But she usually just sees the aftermath. And the guy who plays Carlos is my friend Tom. He's been my best friend forever, and she knows him almost as long as I've known him. He's just always been around. So when she sees us playing characters and being stupid together, like, for her, that's just how we act. So that's not really like a production to her. That's what she sees every time we hang out. So she's not overly reactive to anything I do, which is, I guess, good. But she also doesn't watch everything I do either. She just doesn't care. It's liberating, I guess.
Yeah, humbling.
And humbling, because she doesn't give a rat's ass at anything. Yeah.
So, if we speak about the Giants, let's start with Hard Knocks because it was the talk of the town really. What were your sort of major takeaways from the series?
I liked how Brian Dable came off a lot. It kind of reaffirmed that I really like him as a head coach. I love that he's going to be calling plays this season. Um, Joe Shane, I think, had good and bad moments on the show. There were times where he looked really nervous and maybe uncomfortable around John Mara. But then I was encouraged at some other parts with Joe Shane. Like, I liked when he was talking, I think it was draft day, and he basically had a draft package set up with like every one of the top 10 picks, where that's where I'm like, okay, that he looked sharp in those moments where he's like, if we got to move here, we're going to aim for this guy, we're going to offer this, we're going to make that deal. Like, he was prepared to move around if he had to. And I think he stuck to his guns with the Saquon thing, which I was in favor of not breaking the bank for an older running back, being that I'd much rather invest in the O-line. And that's pretty much what they did. So I'm glad he went in that direction. But overall, clearly some politics to navigate within the Giants building when you have an owner making, not telling you what to do, but clearly making his feelings known. And I think that showed a little light on what we feared as Giants fans, which is that the owner may not know best, but he's always making his feelings known. So that's tricky for any GM to navigate because that's their boss at the end of the day. But to shorten it up, if you weren't going to pay Saquon, find a way to convince your owner that you got to trade him in a 1-7 season or whatever we were. We started horrendous last year, technically alive, but like, come on, that team was going nowhere, crumbling offensive line. So that's the time when you sell these players like McKinney or Barkley that you don't plan on paying so that you get something in return. So I just wish he would have been more aggressive in that and convincing Mara to do so if that was the holdup. So it was good and bad on both sides, but overall super cool to have all that insight into the building. Like, I was glued, every time that show was on, I was super engaged. So it was cool to have all that extra material.
Yeah, we had to jump through some hoops to get hold of it, but we definitely did it, and it was definitely worth it. Now, there were a lot of funny moments and all kinds of other things that happened. Was there a particular standout for you, like favorite moment that you just thought was really cool?
It was kind of silly, but it just showed kind of some real personality because some of it felt a little bit staged, or you could tell that they felt a little bit uncomfortable with a full camera crew looking at him. Like, fair enough, that's not a normal thing to operate in. But when Brian Dable was talking about running a 40 and how he's like, I could do it in 7 seconds, and everyone's like, no, you can't. Like, it was just like, that's how guys talk. Like, that just kind of seemed like guys hanging out at the bar. Like, I could do this. Like, to hell you can do that. Like, I don't know, you're 40 something, like, who do you think you are? And it reminded me of a couple of years ago, Justin Pennick from Talking Giants asked me and Spiro to be part of this content creator combine that he did, and Spiro ran a 40 and nearly all of his limbs almost fell off. He like pulled a hamstring and a quad on different legs. He like couldn't even limp because they were both hurt. It was watching him walk off that field that day was nothing I will ever forget. So it reminded me of that. Like, just because you think you could do something doesn't mean you should, and it definitely doesn't mean you can.
God, we're hoping to do a Big Blue combine at some point, so that should be interesting.
It's worst case, it's a great day. It's a really, really fun time,
Yeah.
just to get together and pretend we could still be athletic.
A lot of change this year. Coaches, players, massive turnaround. And then last week, we didn't really know what we were getting, and we saw some kind of intensity that we haven't seen in a long time from this team. What do you think the identity is of the Giants this year?
I think it's still being formed, but I think I was super encouraged by those joint practices with the Lions. I was completely caught off guard by that. I was not going into this season with super high expectations. Um, always hope for something great to happen, but I didn't expect them to fight the way that they fought in that game, both
Mm,
literally and, just their attitude and the way they approached that. And it seemed like they knew they got pushed around the year before in practices with them. Lions are a top NFC team, certainly a playoff team. So I was really glad to see the Giants not just roll over, excuse me, not just roll over for a team that's supposed to be better, but they went toe to toe. And I think it's
mm,
because we have guys like Neighbors and Brian Burns who are new here that are they're dogs, right? Like that's the term that gets thrown around a lot, but like that's it. They are dudes that
mm,
don't surrender to anybody and they don't back down. And then you have guys like Newbin who, you know, he's in every scuffle. He's just all over. And that's just a rookie coming in with that attitude. And then Singletary, when Neighbors got in the fight, Singletary, I put out a tweet because I didn't even notice it because he's like small and you miss him at parts. But as soon as he saw Neighbors get in a fight, the dude threw his mouthpiece in and ran right into the middle of it and started throwing haymakers at anybody. And I'm like, okay, that's different. Right. And that's all new blood. So I think
mm.
you got to do it when it matters, right? You got to beat teams in the fourth quarter and show that toughness in games without getting stupid penalties and shit like that. But I'm encouraged by the fight that they showed that week of practice. That was encouraging. So I think hopefully their identity is a tough team that doesn't back down.
Yeah, and again, something we've definitely missed the last few seasons, and last season in particular, it was glaringly obvious that we had players being, a couple of cheap shots on some players during the season, and just no one batted an eyelid, and it just seemed like there just wasn't that camaraderie
Yeah.
there.
Started on the first drive last season, right? I think
Mm,
Daniel Jones got hit late and
mm,
JMS was the only one to step up and go over there. Like your quarterback just if you're going to protect or if you're going to overprotect anybody, let it be your quarterback. And there has to be a lot more of that. You can't let anybody get away with that stuff because that's what, these teammates become brothers. They become, you have my back, I got yours. So you got to see more of that from them for sure.
So, without giving a prediction, because it will come later, an actual season prediction, what are the expectations this season?
Expectations are not hopes, right? Expectations are what I think will actually happen. So I think
We'll do both. Do both.
okay,
Expectations and hopes.
yeah, because I'm not sure they're the same. Like I hope that we see consistently uh the same group of guys playing offensive line because you need guys playing together over time, getting hundreds of reps so they can communicate with each other. Like if that's a revolving door, it's going to matter and everything suffers. So I think that is my hope. My expectation is that we see a lot more downfield passing and a lot more being aggressive. Brian Dable is not conservative. He's not. He showed us in his first game as head coach with the Giants, going for 2 on the road to get a win was one
Mm,
of the most ballsy things I've ever seen. Right?
mm,
You put your first game, like every coach, majority of now you got Dan Campbell and some other coaches who are willing to do that too. But the
yeah,
book says kick your field goal or your extra point and go to extra time. And he was like, fuck that. I have Saquon on the 2-yard line. We're winning this game. And that set the tone for the year. That's why the Giants started 6-1, 7-1, is because you set the tone that we're not afraid. We're gonna win games, we're gonna beat you, and we're not afraid to take shots. So that's what I'm fully expecting this year. And it's going to be sink or swim for Daniel Jones because he's going to call your number every single week. You're going to have opportunity. And now you got Neighbors. Throw it up to him. Give that dude a chance.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I feel like 2 out of the 3 outcomes are good, right? He's either going to catch it, there's going to be a penalty, or then a negative, right? So and whether that's incomplete or interception, whatever. But I'll take my chances with Neighbors every single time. So you got to be aggressive throwing downfield. We need big plays and we need to score points. Otherwise, nothing else matters.
So I was going to say to you, including both the draft and free agency, overlooking Burns and Neighbours as the two big boys who potentially could make the biggest impact for the Giants this year. Now, I don't know if your answer potentially would have been someone like Tyrone Tracy, but obviously today that's really been put to bed.
I know, really sad. He's hurt. We fear the worst. Looks like not good at all. So let's assume he's out for the season, which sucks. But just quick, on one hand, it's like what is going on with the Giants? Like I could go that way, or I could just say, look, he's a rookie. He's part of a committee now, right? And we still have Singletary. You still have Eric Gray, who looked phenomenal in that first game. And then you have Turbo. And then if you need to add another running back, that's easier to come by than trying to find offensive linemen. So it sucks. There's no doubt about it. I was definitely excited for him, but I don't think it changes the win-loss record at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
So I would say Jermaine Illuminor, I think, is probably the player, if we're saying draft or free agency, that's going to make the biggest impact because if he can shore up right tackle, that really makes everything look better because everyone's insecure about Evan Neal out there. And then if you get into the Izudu situation, nothing good happens. So he can be an absolute, setting the edge, reliable every week starter that can actually start to make this O-line turn the corner. So I'll go with him.
Cool. Right. Prediction time. Let's fire through these. So you are allowed to pick whoever you want now. There's no constraints to these ones. Most valuable Giant on offense.
I mean, Neighbors. It's Neighbors.
I think that's just going to be a running theme for the entire season. Defense.
Brian Burns. It's funny you eliminated them, and I go right back to the well. But those are the dudes. Like they stand out the most to me. And I love that you got one on each side of the ball. They're going to set the tone, and they raise the play of everyone around them. So I think Brian Burns makes things better for Thibodeau, makes things better for Dex. You can't double everybody. So and it's a different kind of defense. This is not a wink defense. It's going to send people from every direction. It's more like stop the run and contain and kind of frustrate the offense. So it'll be interesting to see. And they might have to adapt because we have a super young secondary, right? So you can't just sit back and let your secondary get picked on. You got to go after the passer. So I think you got to set him loose. And if he becomes one of the great edge rushers like we've seen in Giants history, then it changes the identity immediately, changes the outlook of the whole team.
Yeah. Surprise package. So the player who most people won't be talking about now, but we hopefully will be by the end of the season.
That's a good one. You threw me off with the package. I don't know who's going to surprise most people. I mean, it could be a guy like Newman. Like I like this guy a lot, and I think he's, if he can, we know nothing about our secondary. We have like 8 guys that they need to fit into slots, and I think he's a guy with how tough he is and how good he can be. That he's a guy that we could start like, all right, we got that position locked down. And I think rookie learning curve. There's going to be bad plays, but I think he's going to show up every week, and he seems like that kind of guy that you're going to want on your team. So I'll go with him.
Now the horrible question: team record.
I think this is a 9-8 season, which is, I can't possibly predict lower than last year because everything went wrong last year and they found a way to win 6 games. And I don't like to play and they could have had this one and this one, but then we could have not had this one and this one. So what are we talking about? Like it only, you are what your record says you are, right? So they won 6 last year. I think they got 9 in them this year. And that is completely, dependent on starting off 2-0, which I think they absolutely have to. You're going to be facing Sam Darnold week 1 at home. You just have to beat him. I don't care. He's Sam Darnold. Okay. He's been like the butt of the joke for almost his whole career. If you don't beat him at home, it changes everything. Week 2, you're at Washington facing a rookie quarterback, his second career game. That's a game you should win with a year 6 quarterback in the 3rd year of his system with a better O-line and finally, the there's reasons to believe this schedule is set up for us to start 2-0. You can't complain about the beginning of the schedule. We're not at Dallas on Sunday Night Football. This is at home 1 p.m. against Minnesota. It's like one of the matchups you probably would have had on the top of your list to have at the beginning of the year. So give me a 2-0 start, and then there's tough games. There's going to be struggles, ups and downs. But if we're alive in November, December, and we finish at 9-8, close to a wild card, I would consider that progress in the right direction. So I'll go 9-8.
And that's all we're asking for, is just a little bit of progress.
Yeah, you just can't be a dumpster anymore. You don't be picking in the top 10. You just got to keep going this way. And health is so freaking important with this team that they just got to get that right. Stay healthy, let everything fall into place. So 9-8, I'm sticking with it.
Oh, there we go. Nice, quick, easy questions done. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Hopefully we can get Eli and Spiro on later on in this series. But if people don't know, and they should do, just let them know where they can find you and the Revival.
Sure. I am on all social medias at Jefe Pill. So it's JEFEPIL. And I am 1/3 of New York Revival. Just like it sounds, at New York Revival, you can find us on Twitter, and then we got our link tree there. So stay tuned. We're going live tonight. You'll be asleep, I think, but we'll be live at 8:30. Oh, this is not airing till Saturday. What am I talking about? But we go live most Tuesday nights at 8:30. But follow us on Twitter. We'll keep posting on updates. But I'm a big fan of yours and what you guys do. So I appreciate you having me. I'll come on anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and all that lovely stuff. All our socials will be in the description below. And as always, let's go Giants.